Well, we know the election is done, but now the waiting begins for all of these votes to come in. That means we still don't know which party will control Capitol Hill. That balance still up in the air now.
A couple of races, a handful of them coming down to the wire, right? Political science professor Stephen Caliendo from North Central College back with us today to digest what happened on Election Day. First, two Illinois incumbent Democrats won close congressional races. How did they hold on to their seats?
Well, they held on to their seats. Interesting that they held on to their seats because we know that president's parties typically lose seats in the first term, midterm, and also these are new districts. There was redistricting that had to happen after the census, but these are folks who haven't been in office a long time. It's like I think they both got in 2008.
We're talking Sean Casten at 6
and Lauren Underwood, right? I think 2018, and so but they have a track record, and in the face of high inflation and low presidential approval ratings, they were able to persist.
Well, let's just go to Congress. Assuming Republicans take over the House, let's talk about President Biden's next few years in office, potentially Kevin McCarthy leading the House there. What would that look like as Speaker of the House?
It's a great question. Sometimes I think, as the morning gets longer, I might get smarter, and then sometimes I'm not sure. But as I'm thinking about how we talked earlier, maybe the big winner yesterday was really Republicans who don't want to be aligned with Donald Trump. And I think that's what Speaker McCarthy is going to have to think about. And how's he going to handle, not just within the members of Congress, but in the broader public as well? What are they going to message going forward? It's also very possible that a lot of those folks who are still connected to President Trump are going to push for some retribution for what happened in the last Congress. I wouldn't be surprised to see an impeachment of President Biden, for instance.
Back here to Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, as we know, spent hundreds of millions of dollars of his own money in his re-election campaign. I guess it paid off because moments after the polls closed yesterday, he was declared the winner over Darren Bailey.
Right.
What does that say about the standing of the Republican Party here in the still blue land of Lincoln?
Yeah, and it's a really great question because when we talked last spring, right after the primaries, one of the things that was unique about Illinois is that candidates that President Trump supported lost in the primaries in Illinois, where in other states they were tending to win. I think that in this case, Darren Bailey was the one lone exception, and that was partly because Pritzker helped Bailey get elected in the primary. That he sort of picked his opponent. And so I think that the party in Illinois is sort of already on that path that you can have a detachment from President Trump. And I think it's part of the larger conversation that the Republicans are going to be having nationwide.
A red splash more than a red wave that we saw around the country.
We got to get our metaphors correct if we're going to get this right,
Probably 15 seconds or so left. What's most surprised you and still surprising you this morning about the results?
That we don't know for sure that the Republicans will take control of the House. Your question was so good because I still think that's probably what's going to happen. But I expected we'd know that by now. Maybe we didn't know by how much. So it was a surprise that that it's not a surprise the Senate is where it is. I think we talked about this yesterday. But the House, I thought at this point we'd know be in Republican hands for sure, and we don't know that yet.
All right, Stephen Caliendo, thanks so much for joining us, breaking down this analysis for us. It's good to kind of debrief and figure out as we move forward.
Thank you. Good to see you, sure.